Today, we're approaching one of those age-old questions. Does size matter? Because the two grinders we're looking at differ more or less in one very small but specific point, and that's 10 whole millimeters of Burr surface area. And honestly, now that I've had the DF64 V2 for a while now, I've found it kind of hard to review, purely because there's not a whole lot to say that hasn't already been said. I mean, the baseline performance of these DF grinders is consistently on the upswing, and well above the average for their price point. But how many videos can we as a coffee community put out saying exactly that? But with the addition of the new DF54, and considering by design these two grinders aren't all that different, the main question in my mind is how deep do these similarities actually go, and is bigger actually better? But before we dive into that, in the spirit of full disclosure, the folks over at Me Coffee sent me these grinders for review without any expectation or participation in the content of this video, and only asked that I link to them down below if afterwards you're interested in learning more, or maybe picking one of these up for yourself. So without any further ado, we'll dive right into it after a quick word from this video's sponsor, Third Wave Water. When it comes to brewing the best coffee, quality ingredients matter. And purely by the numbers, water makes up to 98% of what's in your cup, and is absolutely vital to the long-term reliability of your equipment. So after months of testing and trials, I've landed on Third Wave Water formulas for all of my coffee preparation. Not only is it formulated to not produce scale or cause corrosion, but there's an option for every palate. Third Wave Water offers a variety of mineral blends specifically designed to get the most out of your favorite roast level or brew type. So take control of one of the most important variables of brewing quality coffee and head over to thirdwavewater.com/Sprometheus or use code Sprometheus at checkout to save 10% off your first purchase. Thanks to Third Wave Water for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into it. So before we get into the meat of this video, let's quickly go over each of these grinders' spec sheets, which I think will help illustrate just how similar these grinders are, at least on the surface. So here's what they have in common, and here's what they don't. Essentially, what we're looking at here from top to bottom is a mirror image, outside of the burrs, motor, and essentially parts directly associated with each grinder's respective size differences. But what we're concerned with in terms of this video is the specs that can directly have an impact on the grinds and the cups brewed, which in this case rests solely on the burrs and that aforementioned seemingly minuscule 10 millimeters. Now, at this point, I could just go down the standard review route, but neither of these grinders are brand new. I would just be confirming and reconfirming if they have low retention, which they do, or if they're all-around grinders, which they are. So in an effort to bring something to the DF grinder video ecosystem that provides something different, I want to break out a new piece of tech and dive directly into a comparison between how these two grind and if those grinds actually differ. And based on the spec sheets we looked at earlier, this comes down to the cutting instruments themselves, the burrs. Now, looking at them, there really isn't a massive difference. They both have a pretty classic bimodal cutting geometry and share a polished stainless finish. But if you consider the additional 10 millimeters of surface area on the 64 millimeter burrs, the active grinding space does considerably expand, even if they're spinning at the same speed. So of course, there's a relative difference in how fast they'll rip through beans. The DF64 on Espresso will pump out 18 grams in 11 seconds, which is 10 seconds faster than the same dose in grind on the DF54. And grind times on filter coffee follow the exact same pattern, with the 54 still being about double the time against the 64 on coarser settings. But it's the grinds themselves that hold the answer we're looking for. So using the DiFluid Omni, which has a particle analyzer, I was able to align both grinders down to the closest micron reading possible. I then placed a small fresh sample of grinds from each in the Omni, ran the particle analyzer that measures the grind size distribution of each sample, which in basic terms is the range of particle sizes produced after grinding. And this is important because a more uniform grind size produces a more uniform extraction, because different particle sizes extract at different rates. And so it sort of goes without saying, but if there's a large difference in the particle distribution, there of course is going to be a noticeable difference in the cup profile. But after a handful of tests, it's pretty clear that the 54 and the 64 are remarkably similar. When grinding for espresso on the DF64, 61% of the 1,713 particle sample lands between 100 and 500 micron, which is within the fine range. with medium fine making up 21%, medium being 7%, medium coarse 6%, and coarse 5%. On the DF54, again, the fine range makes up the majority at 62% of the 1,582 particle sample, with medium fine making up 20%, medium 6%, medium coarse 1%, and coarse 11%. So when you look at each sample's overall distribution chart, which shows the standard deviation, the DF64 is a bit more consistent, sitting at 315.9 to the DF54's 453.6. But data is only a portion of the tests, and from there, with the grind size aligned, I pulled 2 shots of espresso side by side. And taste-wise, between these 2 grinders, there was no noticeable difference. But beyond the cup qualities themselves being extremely similar, the trend continues all the way from brew time to the extraction percentage, which I think makes their similarities in terms of flavor hard to ignore. And unsurprisingly, filter coffee follows those exact same trends, of very similar if not identical profiles, brew times, and extraction percentages when aligned via the micron testing. So in the end, what does all this tell us? Well, I do think these results are fairly interesting, even though the 64 and 54 are literally designed to be very similar. I mean, they really did achieve that all the way from design to output. The 54 is obviously slower, but it's less expensive, more compact, quieter, and just as effective in terms of grind and cup quality as its larger sibling. And I'm sure that revelation or that result has left folks wondering, well, why bother with the 64? Why pay another $170? Is it even worth buying? And the answer to that is, it depends. What you're paying for isn't necessarily a difference in the cup or grind quality, at least with the stock Burrs, and more so a 5-pound difference in materials, which is essentially the result of a larger motor, a larger body, Burrs, etc. But rest assured that all is not lost for the DF64, because it will likely win out many folks who want faster grind times, but more importantly, want much broader Burr options. So in my opinion, you can't really go wrong with either of these grinders, but I do have to applaud DF for not actually nerfing or reducing the 54's abilities as to not conflict or possibly cannibalize sales of their flagship and more expensive grinder, the DF64. But of course, I will always stop short of saying that these types of findings will be true across the board for all coffees and all grinders. I mean, I'm not trying to be the last word on any of this. I'm not a scientist. I'm just having fun, sharing my thoughts, sharing my experiences, trying to broaden and deepen coffee conversations, and inspire experimentation. But on that bombshell, I think it's time I start wrapping this one up, and as always, pass the conversation on to you. So what are your thoughts on this video? What are your thoughts on the results? Did anything surprise you or not surprise you? And which camp do you fall in? Are you team 54 or team 64, and why? Drop your answers to those questions and any others you may have in the comment section down below. And as always, I'll see y'all next week. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications of new videos posted every Friday. Check out my Instagram @Sprometheus for content throughout the week. Help support the channel by considering becoming a member for early content access. And as always, stay caffeinated. Pony Boy.